everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Superintendent's Report. I'm Carol Birdsong, and I'm here with Williamson County School Superintendent Jason Golden. And we are going to start today's conversation with a celebration, and we have a big one to share. If you didn't know, if you missed it, the state has announced that we are the top performing school district regarding ACTs. Give us some information on that, Superintendent Golden.
Well, thank you, Carol. Number one, the state actually hasn't announced it. They just gave us the data, and we're announcing that we had the highest score, the ACT score in the state for school districts. This data that we had was about 6 months in arrears. It was for our high school graduating class of 2024. Our students averaged a 25.2 on the ACT, which is the highest of any school district in Tennessee. And it's a little bit around, well, if I'm not mistaken, 1.1 points higher than the next closest school district. Now, one interesting thing to me about the ACT is the state actually requires that all high school students take either the ACT or the SAT as a requirement of graduation. That's actually fairly rare across the country. Maybe, if I'm not mistaken, 8 or 9 states actually require that. Somewhere around 95% of our students take the ACT. Just a small number take just the SAT. So we're very proud of that. We're very proud of our students. But really, the key to that is it opens doors for our students. Last year, 84% of our high school graduates went straight to college. So when you add that ACT score, that average ACT score from those graduates to that percentage who were going straight to college, it makes a huge difference for them. It makes a huge difference for families. It is a focus point of ours.
Remind me what it takes to qualify for the Hope Scholarship.
So I'm glad you asked that because I think it's 21 as a base. There are also some other criteria. Grades are also important. But that Hope Scholarship, for that significant scholarship to state schools here in Tennessee, is that base 21. The state average ACT was a little over 19. And so for our students to have that average, that substantial amount above 21 made a big difference. And I will tell you also, the state measures what they call subpopulations or subgroups, students with disabilities. They actually categorize what they call Black, Hispanic, and Native American into one category, et cetera. Even among all those measures, we greatly exceeded the state average. And I mentioned, Carol, at our board work session this January, our students with disabilities actually outperformed the state average for all students. I mentioned that the state average was a little over 19. Our students with disabilities average ACT score was 21.2. So that's a point of pride for us because our teachers are focusing on opening those opportunities for our students with disabilities as well.
You know, and you always say that the ACT score is kind of that final assessment, if you will, but it really starts, that growth really starts at the early grade level. So every teacher assistant, every staff person contributes to the success of our graduating seniors.
Well, that's right. This has been a multi-year effort from our teachers at all grade levels. We actually serve our students with disabilities starting at age 3, and that's a federal standard, so everyone is doing it. But what we are doing that's so special is, even at the elementary school level, we are making sure we've committed time for our teachers to work together. Our parents know that about 13 times a year we will have what we call an early release for our elementary school students. We have strategically placed those days based on the way we teach our standards so that teachers have time to go back and have a conversation with each other about how their students mastered standards during the course of the school year. We don't just wait for test scores to come in at the end of the school year. We're not driven by the test. What we are driven by is making sure that all our students master the standards that they need to learn to be prepared for that next grade level. So it's that effort, that specific time where teachers are comparing how their students did across the hall. They might say, hey, your students did better on this standard. How did you teach them? Give me some pointers. And so we're trying to make sure that all our students have that same high quality instruction no matter which teacher they have. What we hear from our teachers is that collaboration time where they're able to work with their peers and learn from each other is valuable. And that focus on student learning, as opposed to simply a teacher just being in their room teaching a student, is really a key to our success. It's how we're able to continue to grow just that little bit extra every year, even though our students are performing so highly.
You know, since the last time we recorded one of these programs, our students have seen so much success as far as state and national recognition, not only in academics, but athletics and the arts. And at the January school board meeting, we recognized some of those accomplishments, but I kind of want to reflect on some of those if we can.
And Carol, I want to interrupt before you give that reflection. We make it a point in our board meetings to celebrate state and national champions. The success rate of our students is such that at the board level, we limit those celebrations to those state and national champions. I'll give you one example. Page High School's football team has been to the state championship game 4 years in a row. And we like to talk about that, but they came in second each one of those 4 years. It's a long sustained success. At the board meetings, we actually celebrate those championships, and I know you're going to share some just from this month.
Well, I just want to kind of talk about just some of the highlights, because you brought up Page High School. I think this is the first time in my recollection that we've had actually the Class 5A and Class 6A Tennessee Titans Mr. Football, and that was Eric Hazard at Page and then Donovan Starr at Ravenwood.
So yeah, that award is for the most outstanding football player at each classification for TSSAA, our state governing board for athletics. So Eric Hazard from Page High School won the Mr. Football Award for Class 5A. Mm-hmm. And then at Ravenwood,
Donovan Starr at 6A.
Donovan Starr, and we're so happy for their success. And I tell you,
5A.
one of the things that I've heard
And
about
then
both
at
those student
Ravenwood,
athletes is
Donovan
team.
Starr at 6A.
Donovan Starr.
When someone talks about their skills and their performance, it always goes back to team and the leadership that they had for their teams.
We had 23 All-State band members. We had 21 All-State orchestra members. Quite an accomplishment. And we were treated to a performance by Thompson Station Middle School last night prior to the board meeting, and wow, they were fabulous.
Thompson Station Middle School's jazz band performed for our school board and our visitors to our school board meeting. The quality of that performance was incredible. The selections they had, Miles Davis dominated. So folks who know a little bit of jazz would recognize some of the tunes that they played. Little bit of kind of emphasis on freedom of expression with our students. Many of them took moments within some of those pieces to be featured. We had trumpet solo, bass saxophone, and on down the line. The quality of that was incredible. We could have recorded that. It's the kind of event that you would go just on a night to enjoy, where you'd actually pay for the ticket price.
Some great entertainment for sure. Speaking of middle schools, a lot of times when we honor our students, there aren't that many opportunities for a first place state or national recognition, but last night we were able to do so with the Fairview Middle School wrestling team, since we joined the Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association, which is the middle school branch of TSSAA. And then we had a Spring Station winner as well, state champion Addison Borden. So congratulations to those athletes. But one of my most favorite awards comes from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Those are the folks that do the Emmys. And while we can't call this an Emmy, it is a student production award. And we had 2 national awards, one from Brentwood High School, one from Franklin High School. I tell you what, I believe our TV media production programs are second to none across this country, and these students competed from both sides of the country, all parts in between, to bring home those national honors. So congratulations to Michael Gorskowski and David Ward from Brentwood High School. Their teacher is Sloan Ashworth, and Anna Ray Jones, who has been such a contributor at Franklin High School, and her teacher is Carrie Thompson.
And Carol, you mentioned the middle school TSSAA body, which is the Middle School Athletics Association, and our joining that just a few years ago. You know, our vision statement states that we will provide a supportive environment where students are challenged to excel in academics, athletics, and the arts. And so just a few years ago, we evaluated our middle school program, and our support is really good. Our coaches and the work they do is incredible. That challenge was something that we determined we'd been just playing within Williamson County and just competing against each other. We decided that we needed to increase that challenge for our students, and those middle school students have risen with that challenge we gave them by participating in the statewide competition. That'll open doors for them in high school, but more important, they're learning those qualities of teamwork, leadership. And you mentioned also the Academy of Arts and Sciences. We talk also about a supportive environment that challenges students to excel in the arts. Likewise, those opportunities that our students have to go beyond the classroom to compete at national competitions will give them that proverbial leg up as they choose where they're going to go with next steps. Many of our students go to college. Some of our students will go into industry immediately out of college, and having those opportunities to compete in a supportive environment will give them skills that you just can't even measure. The advantage that they have in seeing those opportunities for success. I'm very proud of what our teachers are doing, especially in the arts and athletics in growing our students.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, now let's get on to some more business. So there was only one item on the agenda that the board voted on, and that was open zone schools. And so this is an annual I guess, agenda item, if you will, and that took place. So that is now up on our website, so you can go there and get more information about it. It is under About Us and School Zones. But Superintendent Golden, please explain to us why we have open zone schools and really what that means.
So we try to give students opportunities to attend whatever school they want within the capacity that we have. Traditionally in public schools, every school has a school zone, and we do that, and that is driven by transportation. We try to provide bus transportation to our students as much as possible. It's interesting, the state actually doesn't require us to provide bus transportation other than for students with disabilities, but we think we need to. We feel like it's the right thing to do. So we have school zones where our buses provide that service. It's a human effort. We're constantly recruiting bus drivers. However, not all our schools are 100% full. So annually we make a decision on, based on our projected growth over the next few years, how many seats can we make available to students who have that opportunity to go to a school that is not within their school zone. We've been doing that for many years. More recently, the state passed a law requiring schools to open zone schools. Again, we've been doing it for years, but the state now requires it, and they actually changed the rules just a little bit from our typical practice. Traditionally, we have allowed students to attend out of zone based on a first come, first served basis. We would announce via our board of open zone schools. We'd have a deadline, but in between, whoever submitted the request first had that first choice. The state now has a system where you identify how many seats are available at a school, and then you close out the availability at a particular date, and then everyone who within that window of time made a request gets put into a lottery based on how many seats are available, and then we make a decision that way. The reality is we have not actually had to apply a lottery in the 3 years that the state has had that requirement, but it's always a possibility. So for practical purposes, we have 42 of our 50 campus schools available to some degree or another based on their capacity for someone to attend out of zone. Right now, of our 42,000 students, about 2,500 of them attend out of zone. We expect some more this year through this zoning process. The state also has a requirement that we actually post the decision of the board, and there's a 2-week window before folks can even apply. For whatever reason, the state established that. So we're trying to make it a point to let people know. February 4th is the date that the window opens for families to choose out of zone. We have an electronic online application process. It's on our website right now. It's posted. I'm encouraging folks to calendar that for February 4th. April 15th is the deadline for that. So the reality is, because of this state structure, people won't know until after April 15th if their child did get in. So encourage folks to attend out of zone if they'd like to do that. What I do know, Carol, is high schools, especially because of their college and career technical education programs, some of those course offerings, it's a very attractive open zone opportunity for students. For example, Fairview High School has a mechatronics program. Centennial High School has a computer-aided design program that is well known, not just locally but across the state. So some of those programs might attract a student. February 4th, the window opens. April 15th, the window closes.
That's right. And you can go to our website now under About Us and School Zones to see that information. Also on our website, we are in the process of textbook review. And so you can go to our website and see what books that we are looking at. Talk about that process, if you will, Jason.
So we go through a selection process for all our texts, and I think really about those four main content areas: English language arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. The state has an adoption cycle for textbooks. We don't just get textbooks and keep them for decades. Every 6 to 8 years, depending on the state cycle, we go through the process of reviewing the state standards and selecting textbooks that that allow us to do the best we can in teaching those state standards. It's a complicated process. It first goes through a state review. Textbook companies submit their materials to a state textbook commission. They review those, compare those to the state standards, and make sure that they're as closely aligned as possible. They might narrow that list based on the applying companies. Then we take those that the textbook commission has approved and go through a local process of parent involvement, stakeholder involvement, teacher involvement, in selecting what is best for our students given what the state has provided to us. We are in that window right now. That includes a committee that reviews all the materials, opens times for parents to come and review the materials, hears from all our teachers in that particular subject matter, and then makes a recommendation to the board. Science textbooks are going through that process right now. As we sit here and record this in January, March is the scheduled board meeting for our board to make a decision. In the meantime, during that time, we encourage our parents to come and look at the textbooks. The state gives us a few copies, and we've scheduled times for parents to come in and look, but this is the first time for science textbooks, and actually the second time ever, that the state has posted electronically selections that they have chosen. And there's samples of that online. So we do encourage our parents to look at the online samples if they have any interest in reviewing the science textbooks and what we're looking at. Carol, I know that your team published an article about that in Focus, so we encourage families to go back on our website and look at that. You can click on that and actually have direct links to those state titles. But we also encourage folks, if you have any interest at all in reviewing what we're doing with selecting science textbooks, that you pull that up and pull up our calendar for that review.
And textbooks are a big budget item, and we are in budget season. So
Carol, I got to toss that out. We have close to 42,000 students, and you think about a textbook, anyone who's had a child in college, or even during the time you were in college, some of those books can be in the low hundreds of dollars. So you multiply that times 42,000, different materials for different grade levels. It is a significant investment. Now, the nice thing about that is the selection process allows us to invest and then keep those books for 6 to 8 years as our students go through that process. If we have growth, if we have some replacements, we might have a little bit of expense on an annual basis. But the investment that our county puts into that, the investment that the state puts into that is significant, because our mission is to educate our students and make sure that they understand the standards that the state set for us.
So talk about the budget process and when the board will approve the budget for next year. We start so early. It seems like we just get one budget passed, we get school started, and we're already working on the budget for the next year. So I know Rachel Farmer who oversees budget and finance for Williamson County Schools, has been working on this, it seems like, for months.
Well, you mentioned Rachel Farmer. She's our CFO, or our Assistant Superintendent for Finance. For anyone who has run a business, you have a basic idea of what we're talking about when we talk about budget. The numbers may be different because we do serve about 42,000 students. We are a person-heavy business. The quality of teachers is our number one value. About 86% of our total budget is people. And so a lot of what we do when we work on budget is evaluate our capacity to take care of our people. So we go through the budget process, and we're on a July 1st fiscal year. From a funding standpoint, from the revenue side of the budget, we have three main sources. One is state funding, two is federal, and three is local. In Williamson County, the majority of our funding comes locally. Williamson County is a net giver to the state. In other words, the revenue generated here tends to leave and support other projects across the state of Tennessee. So about 2/3 of our budget comes from our local county commission. About 1/3 comes from the state and from its funding mechanisms. And then usually 1 to 2% of our total budget is federal. Our federal funding is relatively small compared to many of our neighbors. So we have to project the revenue, and then we deal with the expense side. What I do know from what we have learned so far at the state level, although the state has really just started their budgeting process, unless there's a significant change at the state level, we don't anticipate any significant increase in state funding. There's been some discussion about, if folks watch the news, you might hear the phrase, the base funding from the state. Currently, the state's funding structure calls for a base amount per student of $7,075. We don't get anywhere near that from the state. The state's base is actually a combination of a complicated formula of how much the state gets and how much they expect us to pay towards that. When I mentioned that the county funds about 2/3 of our budget, that's where you see it. So we do get some funding from the state. Our county commission is our funding body. Our board does not vote on taxes, does not vote on the revenue side of the budget. That is a different elected body. A lot of folks who move into the community have experienced something very different from that, and we have to talk about that. So our board can make decisions based on what funding we have available. Our county commission has done an excellent job of taking care of our students over the years. A few decades ago, our leaders made a decision that education mattered in Williamson County, and they funded it that way. Now our reality is our per pupil expenditure is a little bit below average based on the recent data we have, a little bit below the state average on per pupil expenditure. We do a lot with what we have. Some of that's economies of scale because we are the 6th largest school system in the state, but we focus again on people with the funding that we have. From a scheduling standpoint, our board is going to make a decision in March on the budget. We have to get that to the county commission before April. The county commission is scheduled to make a decision in June for the July 1 fiscal year.
Okay. A lot of activity in the world of budget. You talked about people. So we are also in the recruitment phase. We are recruiting teachers for our next school year. So you're going to see and hear a lot about that in the next coming weeks, because we want you to save the date for Saturday, March the 1st at Ravenwood High School between 9 and 11:30 a.m. It is our teacher fair. And this is where we offer contracts, sometimes right there on the spot, lots of interviews. All 52 schools will be represented. Why is this such an important time for our district as far as staffing?
Well, every year we have change, we have transition. Folks retire. The traditional career is 30 or more years, but because of our size, every year we have a number of teachers who retire, we have people who move out, and we need teachers every year. So we start that work in the spring. We know at the college level, students who are seniors and have decided to teach are going through that process of trying to find a job right now. And so it's very important that we fill every position. You know, we have stabilized in our growth. Until, maybe 2 years ago, we were growing so fast that it was a constant battle trying to make sure that we staff. We have stabilized our growth, and so now we're dealing with that natural transition that you have from year to year rather than trying to deal with that massive growth that we've been working with. And what we hear from teacher candidates is support is a very important item for them. And we have that support. For a brand new teacher, we assign them a teacher mentor in their school building. We also have district support. Because our teachers work together, a brand new teacher to the profession can grow and learn from their peers because we have designated intentional time for them to do that. So that's part of what we talk about when we speak to our teacher candidates about why Williamson. We also know that there is a shortage of teachers across the nation. And so this is very much what I think of as a seller's market for teachers. We have found these days that teachers are interviewing us as much as we're interviewing them for jobs. So I encourage folks, consider Williamson County. If you're watching this and you have family members who might be in other parts of the country and might think that Nashville is an attractive destination and they're an educator, we encourage you to mention Williamson County Schools to us. Not only do we have teachers new to the profession straight out of college come to these recruiting fairs, but we have teachers who are moving into the area who are looking for that next best place to make a difference for children.
That is our Teacher Job Fair, scheduled for Saturday, March the 1st, from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Ravenwood High School on Wilson Pike in Brentwood. So we hope that you will spread the word for us because we want the best and the brightest to serve our students here in Williamson County Schools. Thank you, Superintendent Golden, for the good conversation, and thank you for joining us for the Superintendent's Report.